3, which is the proposed Middle and South Raccoon River Watershed Agreement discussion. I had asked Neil for his approval to put this on today's agenda as we are entering the comment period that this proposed watershed committee has requested. And I've really heard not a whole lot of public comment here locally. I've had people ask me what the update of it is and so on, but I just thought that I would, put it out there today just to have a good roundtable discussion. I see we've got the Hagmans in attendance and Mr. Honish in case it has anything else to add, but they are seeking public input, and so I thought this would be a good opportunity to have such. So
I did get an email from the Property Rights Council overnight. I don't know if they emailed you, so
yes.
Okay. I printed it out. I don't know if they go together. I didn't get a skip.
I got this copy as well for this one here.
Okay. Did I give you mine?
Yeah, I grabbed this one and you can have it back, but I'd like you to put
That's
this
fine.
today.
It's the same ones. That's good.
I'm living in my grandchildren's house this week, so I haven't just email this morning. Well, I'm just going to give a little background on this. I know it was I wrote down a few dates. It was in early June, June 18th, that they came to us with a 2080 agreement on this watershed agreement. And we had looked it over and had some questions about it. And at a subsequent meeting on June 25th, Ernie Rudolph came and met with us. He's the person that coined this email, I believe. Is this from Ernie?
Yes.
And he's got a organization called the Iowa Property Rights Council that him, his wife, and a few other people are very active with. But anyhow, they had pointed out some serious flaws that was in the original contract, as did our county attorney. So this board, we just flat rejected the proposed 2080 agreement at our county attorney's recommendation and our judgment as well. Then, and up to that point, we as a board had been kind of on the sideline on this whole project. So we decided to get in on the action, and I agreed to act on behalf of the board to attend the meetings here. August 9th, we had a meeting, and we took the old contract, and we basically decided we needed to change it significantly because it wasn't going to fly like it was. We took some comments, and I know I emailed the board member and some Farm Bureau members. I know Mike Sybil had some comments. Some of the City Carroll people had comments. Carol Seaman did a lot of work on it. And we brought all these to a meeting that we had in September. And the other board members had a few comments because of the great input I had from everybody around here. I had a whole page of changes that we reviewed. The email basically had a couple comments from the Attorney General and a whole page of them for me, and about all of them got changed. And they weren't all my comments, they were just ones I had brought to the table, thanks to everybody else. So right now our situation is we have redone the whole contract. It's really streamlined, totally different, and we don't feel it's perfect. It probably never will, but we want it to be the best it can be. So we've opened up a public comment period where we've sent this contract out, and I've emailed each of you a copy of the new 2080. Ernie Rudolph had gotten one, and I was kind of waiting to hear from him. I wish I'd have gotten this information earlier in the meeting, but we can handle it here. And we're on October 18th, we're going to get together and look at all these comments we're getting from other supervisors and Ernie and try to finish this thing up. I'll wait for here.
Yes, can you direct the call to the auditor's office at 9802? Yes, 792-9802. Yes. They'll do that. Thank you, thank you. Dex directories, how many do we need? Sorry.
Okay, so anyhow, so this, when Mark asked to put this on the agenda, I thought, well, actually, it's a good time to put it on the agenda. This is ideal timing, because either you're gonna have some ideas today, or we've discussed enough that you'll come back to us with ideas, because we want to get them submitted so that by October 10th, so that the October 16th meeting, all ideas will be considered. And I was hoping, and I knew it would have surprised me if Ernie didn't have 3 pages, so I'm a little surprised I only have a page and a half of comments on this. And in all honesty, I'm not defensive at all of what he's sending in. He's a very well-meaning person. And I look to him as a free critic. He's going to pick this whole thing apart, and that's great, I think, you know, because he helped us in the beginning, he noticed some things, and I appreciate that. I was kind of going over some things that he had commented over, and he's got some good comments. Some of them we've already talked about, and some of them were, I don't know, he's thinking he wants the word cooperator instead of coordinator and things like that. Some little things that we should surely look at. But anyhow, that's where we are today. And I think the bigger picture, maybe, that Mark alluded to this morning when I talked to him, is not so much in addition to getting it right on this agreement, but why in the world are we doing it in the first place? You know, do we really want to continue down this path, and what are we going to get out of it? And I think we should continue down this path. The whole premise is there is a substantial amount of money, flood money, I believe it's federal money that's available, that can be applied for and put to good work somewhere on the farms in this area. And I know when I went to the original meeting, I asked the board, I go, hey, what are some directives I have? And one is we support conservation, and that's why I think we should go with it. You were not interested in delegating our authority. That was a big thing in the original agreement that's gone away. And if we have an entity in here, we determine who our representative will be, we vote them in, and if we don't like them, we vote them out. It's not a consensus thing, it's for us. And that has been accomplished in that, those objectives that, or those charges that I brought to the board. So that's about it. I know as I look through this and see some of the things, well, I'll have to go over this in more detail since I just got it this morning, but I don't see anything earth-shaking in Ernie's thing. I know the first thing he says is he's concerned that our overriding concerns that the new authority has limited power and remains under control of the elected officials. And ironically, John Worden's recommendation, one of the recommendations that he sent us down is, hey, you only want elected officials on this board. You don't want non-elected officials to override you. And that was one change we got to make. So that is one thing that Ernie has here that, that I don't understand.
Ernie, originally too, he was concerned about certain environmental groups they control.
Yeah.
Isn't that one of his concerns?
Yeah.
And that's why we went this way.
And another concern I want to make clear is what powers this 28E agreement does and does not have. A lot of, like, the duties that are in the contract are taken, I went back to the code, and they are taken word for word out of the code. So it's not like we added or deleted anything. And I'll give you one example here that he picked out. He was saying that in the code it said the Watershed Management Authority may perform all the following duties. He is concerned that we have the terminology in the contract, including but not limited to the following duties, and we list them. So we discussed that, and at some point there may be something that we want to do that's a little bit outside of this, and we don't want to limit it. And on the other side, Ernie's saying, no, we want to make sure that you guys don't go wild with your authority. That's his concern. I can see both sides. I'm not arguing either side right now. And all I can say is I feel as a representative of this board that we should go forward. I will just tell you that I'm gonna seriously go over every one of these. If there's something here any of you pick out now, I know I've referenced a lot of these back to the original contract and could answer any of these questions, some of these questions if you have a specific one this morning.
When John's kind of give a blessing on this new one, hasn't he?
Well, John
Or has
Worden,
he totally got it done yet?
yes, he did, and he basically looking at it from a legal standpoint, and that's why he says they do not approve anything where you let non-elected officials take control. Gotta be elected officials. So he's looking at it from a legal standpoint. As far as from a policy standpoint, he says that's our job. We determine policy. He determines legality. So as far as the legality, John has done that, and I'm happy with John. Got as much information on him as we did from any other county attorney. And there's 3 other county attorneys that I didn't hear anything from. But he's not telling us what our policy should be, and that is our job. So I respect him.
Oh, yeah, he's right in that.
Yes.
No, I guess I'm not.
And one clarification I want to make, and it's one thing that they kind of talked about, is Ernie is concerned about taxation without representation, all this. The 28E specifically makes it wrong. 28E cannot create a tax. It cannot tax. That's one thing. And the second thing is they do not have the power of eminent domain. They cannot take land. So anything we do has to be with the agreement of the landowner, and we can't create tax. Now I'm going to specify that. The 28E cannot tax or levy, but the 28E could ask people like Carroll County to contribute something, say for the management of it. So I'm not saying it's going to be free forever. In fact, they would kind of like to have someone step up and sort of manage this thing, and that hasn't exactly happened yet. But I just want to make that clear. They can't tax, but yeah, they can collect money voluntarily. And probably one other thing I want to say is we have a pretty good exit policy, and Ernie commented about that. On the last page, he says on 13.2 allows termination. He said this can be interpreted as either a cooperator terminates their participation, which is the intent, or that a single cooperator can terminate the entire agreement, which is not the case. The only way that a single there has to be at least 2 entities to have one of these 28 degrees, according to law. So the only way an entity can terminate the whole agreement is if there are only 2 left. 2 or more political may create a 28 degree. So there has to be 2 or more. And there's more than that here. I don't know. Have I explained, or
I think so.
if?
Well, and I think, from what I read, this thing has really gotten a lot simpler than what it was.
And shorter.
Shorter, and just more to the point, and I agree with you, Neil. I think that we need to be involved, because I think there's, for the reasons you stated that we stated earlier, the conservation stuff, and I think there's probably sometimes some of our communities are going to be needing this for some funding of wastewater.
I agree. There again, I'll refer back to what they're doing up there at Lakeview, the lake restoration group up there. They've got tremendous participation from landowners, from the city in Lakeview. They had 117 people, I believe it was, at the meeting again there a week ago. I mean, there's a lot of people, a lot of cooperation, and a lot of those best management practices out there trying to implement up there. Basically come through Agric with the plans that they've got here for the Raccoon River watershed. The plans that Agric grew up. But it's like anything else. There's only so many dollars federally and statewide going towards these programs. I think we need to be involved. I agree with Gene and Neil both that we need to be involved when those opportunities come up. If we don't have our foot in the door, if we're not involved, we'll lose those opportunities for Carroll County and all the cities in the county.
Dan, I understand that they are having more participation in there. Are they under this type of 2080 agreement, or is it a separate type of organization? So it's different from this, okay. Because I didn't see them on the list of, we got a list of other communities who have a 2080 similar to this. Okay, and then you mentioned Agrin, and they have done extensive work in this watershed, which is to the advantage, because if the watershed sees an opportunity to apply for a grant, the footwork is already done, and we'll be spending money on anything like that. And somebody asked these, there's a side issue that's kind of going on with this between the Iowa Property Rights Council with there's an organization called the Tomorrow Plan, and it's entirely different than this, and he's gotten editorials and everything written out and news releases saying these are the people who signed on to the Tomorrow Plan, and I'm against it because it aligns with some United Nations contract that is not valid for us, and it goes on and on and on. And one of the people that signed on to the Tomorrow Plan, which is a Des Moines area thing, is Brad Golightly, who's chairperson, or not chair, member of the Dallas County Board of Supervisors, and he's also on this one. But they can't be blended together. I would say that some of the mistakes they learned with this Tomorrow Plan can be avoided in this, but they're two separate things. Okay, so anyhow, the way I would suggest leaving it as your representative is to go forward, see what we get for suggestions. I'll detail these things out here. I'm sure that everybody else on the board has gotten them. I'll make sure they have. We'll review his points, take the best we can out of this. See what we come up with on our October 16th meeting.
16th or 18th?
16th, yeah, it's the 16th week. I'd have to check, but it's at Sonora there. Yeah, it would be on Thursday the 18th. Mm-hmm. Do you have questions, comments about anything that Ernie has said, or any comments you have?
No,
Hubert, did you have some questions? I know Hubert was one of. Do you have anything, Hubert?
Yes. Personally, I think this is just another layer of bureaucracy that we don't need. And I also have asked you earlier on to have in a presentation by either Roger Wolf or somebody from the Soybean Association, in that they have more expertise and know what's going on and seeing what's the improvements that have been made without this. And I personally, just for the record, I'm all for conservation and I'm all for water quality and that kind of stuff. But I just feel that these things can be accomplished without another layer of bureaucracy. And if you got another layer of bureaucracy, obviously you got cost of administration and all that kind of stuff. Pretty soon, yeah, you'll get some federal money, but it's going to cost you more in the long run. And so I just really believe that it's a mistake to move forward with this, because I don't think it's going to accomplish what you think it's going to accomplish as conservatively and as budgetarily as we can do it. You know, we got the NRCS and in each of the counties and that kind of stuff, and that kind of, I just really have a lot of problems with another layer of bureaucracy.
Okay.
And yes, there's been a lot of improvements on this. I'm not going to fault that. I'm not going to discuss that at the moment, simply because I haven't studied it well enough, and I'd like to see once what Ernie had to say also, that if I could. But I just, the whole concept of another layer of bureaucracy is what I'm opposed to.
Well, I respect that comment, Hubert. What I will try to accomplish at this October 18th meeting is, I try to do a little risk-reward ratio thing, or ask, well, how much, and we are having, there is a question right now about administration of this. We want to keep that almost a zip, and I think we have an entity that will manage it. It's not, it's Des Moines Waterworks, and some people have a problem with them doing that because of some other things they've been involved in.
It's the fox garden, the chicken house on that one as far as I'm concerned.
I know, and they have specifically said, if you have anybody else that you want to manage this as opposed to us, we're fine, we'll step back, we'll step out of it. So you may say it's the fox guarding the chicken house, and there's other people with that thought. But they certainly would glad so. And the only other thing, Hubert, when we're concerned about the cost of this, I think the biggest cost is done already with the work that Agron's done. And that's not the administrative cost you're talking about, but the cost of getting things ready, so.
I understand that, and I'm not faulting that, but I guess I'm for limited amount of government, and I just think that this is a place where we can start and get as much bang for the buck as possible without another layer of bureaucracy.
Okay.
I just have problems with it.
Wait, I know, when I bring this up at the meeting, I know what's gonna happen. I'm gonna say, hey, is there any way we can do this without another layer of administration? The first answer is gonna be, well, if this 28E works, who's gonna look for the grant? Who's gonna look for the?
I think that there is the NRCS, and some of that those grants are available. And besides, getting some of those grants is not in your best interest as far as the total cost of the whole project. You guys have seen this with some of your federal money with your roads and your bridges that you have to get into. It costs so much more that I think you may get a grant, but in the long run it's going to cost you. And that's what I'm afraid of is going to happen. And so the grant really is not cost effective.
I think probably the more important thing here is there's got to be a vehicle to make sure that all entities pull in the same direction. Otherwise, on an individual basis, that's not going to happen.
You're going to get grants, and so you got to do it like the federal government wants it to be done. And you know, we can do that so much easier and so much better with less
Fewer strings
cost.
attached.
Pardon me?
With fewer strings attached.
Yes.
And expense.
Yes, and do just as good or better job.
Okay. All right. I'll bring that to the board.
Okay, thank
To the
you.
table.
But again, I'd sure like to see that either Roger Wolf or somebody from the Soybean Association would talk to you people before to get an idea of what's going on the whole watershed. And the Soybean Association has put in a lot of time and effort into the Raccoon River
I
shed.
know they've taken a lot of water samples.
Yes,
They
yes,
charge for that
yes.
service, of course.
Yes, yes.
But,
And Roger would, or somebody from the Soybean Association would have a wealth of knowledge that could explain this better than I can.
And yeah, I do have his
Yes.
contacts, which you provided.
I certainly would recommend that.
Okay.
Virginia, you have a comment?
I have some questions. It talks about the cities involved. How many cities in Carroll County would there be that would be eligible to be a member?
Well, the ones that are in the watershed,
Rita, Carroll, and everything. These.
Okay, Breda, Lanesboro, Litterdale, Carroll.
Probably
Glidden.
Dedham and Coon, I would think,
Okay.
and Glidden, yeah.
there would be three entities, three groups of entities, I should say, in this agreement. The Board of Supervisors from the 4 counties, which is Carroll, Green, Dallas, and Guthrie, the Soil and Water Conservation District people from the same counties, plus the cities. And whether the cities want to participate or not is optional, up to them. We're going to afford them the opportunity. And I'm thinking a town, I'll just pick on Willie because they aren't here to defend themselves. They might say, forget it, we're not going to get involved in this. And that's okay. It only takes 2 entities to form this 2080 agreement. And if some of the cities don't get involved, it's not a big deal. I think Big City Carroll will be involved, and I think they're kind of following our lead because they know we're very involved in it. And I think they'll follow whatever we do, but any city in the geographical watershed can be a member, and it's going to be welcome to be a member if they so desire.
The city of Dedham's been following this very close. You know, they've been asking quite a bit about it.
So they may decide to join, I don't know that.
But I think they're waiting, like they're waiting to see what we do.
Okay, the funding kind of bothers me. You say no tax money, but then you're allowed to bond. So how do you pay off if you don't get donations and grants in something you've started? And even if you opt out down the road, it looks like you're still
I don't think
involved in funding.
I don't think there's going to be any bonding or
Well,
borrowing.
it talks about in here that you're allowed to bond.
I don't think we're going to do anything like that. You got the latest agreement. Where's that at today?
My page 4, but 617. Securing finance, including grants, loans, and the issuing of bonds or loan agreements, as determined to be necessary or desirable to achieve the objectives of the agreement.
Yeah, that's those powers and duties, 6.1.
7.
So I thought that came right out of the code that said what they could possibly do. And so that would, yeah, I thought I had all those here. I'd have to check. I guess I didn't make a copy of that section of the code, but yeah, that's an option. And I don't think there's any intention to do that.
Well, 611 says that
It's
they
going
can.
to be in there.
Yeah, just right above it, it says 611, it says that they'll have be able to identify opportunities for funding and in-kind support. And then so 616 allows for the measures to be able to, in order to accomplish that.
I think grants is the key word there that they'd be interested in.
I agree with that today, but what about down the road 2 or 3 years, 5 years, 10 years? When
Well,
you want to do something, when this group wants to do something, they'll say, oops, we can bond.
sure.
And then how are bonds paid for?
Well, if it gets out of hand, then we go to section 13.3, which is termination, where you can opt out.
Yeah, but it says you're still liable, aren't you?
Not if you haven't, if you've gotten out before you bonded.
Oh, yeah, but after the fact, though.
Well, after the fact you would be.
No, but if they're considering bonding, you would opt out if you didn't agree with that. Hey, you're giving me what I wanted. I was asking for comments, and I appreciate it.
Well, and that bonding could be in such a situation like Manny's going through right now about the hospital. They've got a bond because the grant that they're getting isn't reimbursed until after it's expended, so they have to do a bond in between. What do you call them?
There's a number of scenarios out
Yeah,
there.
so I mean, there's scenarios that it might have to be that way.
At this point, this 28E is most specifically being created to get a hold of some of these, some flood money that's available. Other communities have gotten that and are able to put it on the ground on a volunteer basis on farms. And I think after that goes away, 2080 probably will too. That's just my thoughts.
Well, from what I read in the paper, the government don't have any money